All right, so let's get started with our next talk. Now I'm particularly excited to welcome two of my colleagues on stage. So we have Audrey Mann and Maria Vlad from Project A, talking about the potential of no and low code platforms. So please give a warm welcome to Maria and Audrey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for staying so long and also for joining our session. In this session, we want to talk about how low code, also no code platforms are revolutionizing the venture capital landscape and to also give a short introduction. Let's talk about Project A, which I think most of you might know by now who Project A is. But Project A is a venture capital based in Berlin, but it's not any venture capital. We are an operational venture capital. And what that means, it means that we are not only supporting ventures with capital, we are also supporting them with resources, with our knowledge and expertise. And also now to talk about each other, my name is Mariam, and I am a junior backend developer at Project A. To talk a bit about my background, I guess most people can say it's a bit unorthodox. I have actually started it, I guess most people, I guess it's unorthodox before 2020 when everybody seems to be doing a bootcamp or learning to code by themselves. I actually have a BA in fashion, and why the question might be why fashion and not tech. It's a bit strange, especially as a backend developer. But fashion is not that glamorous or creative as people might think once you are behind the scenes. And I also grew tired of it after a few internships and also hated the climate impact it has, the industry. And yeah, as everybody during, I guess, COVID, I started a boot camp. And I also actually returned to an old passion, which was software development. And yeah, I started the boot camp. And then I was super lucky to join Project A and also meet amazing people who believed in me and also mentored me. And now I want to pass over to Audrey.
Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to be speaking here today at a tech conference. I'm not sure what made me more nervous today, to be honest, because just at lunch, I had an appointment at the Bürgeramt. So that was also not the best thing to start my day before holding this conference. But yes, nevertheless, I'm still very happy to be here. And thanks to you, Maria, for inviting me to talk with you and share this panel. Maybe a bit about my background. I come from the marketing background. I was previously working at Smunch, which is a lunch delivery solution for companies based in Berlin. Started off as an event manager and then quickly moved on into the world of CRM and automation. So that's where I basically started looking into the nitty-gritty of all these tools, playing around a bit, and yeah, grew all my excitement for this world at Smunch. Fast forward to today at Project A, I'm in the operational team, working as a growth marketing manager and supporting our ventures in everything related to CRM. And when I can, I try to implement no-code solutions. But it has been a bit of a challenge. But I'll get to that at a later point. Okay, so today, exactly, we're going to dive into the fascinating world of no-code and low-code platforms in our presentation titled Code Lite, Dream Big, Navigating Complexities in No-Code and Low-Code Platforms. So here's a fact. By 2025, 65% of application development will involve no-code and low-code tools. So the questions here are, how did we get here, and what does it all mean for us? So organizations, but also the business team and technical teams working in businesses. So that's what we're going to try and answer today, and also share a bit about our experience. Moving on to the agenda. There, we will start with an introduction to give you a bit of an overview of how the topic got a lot of traction in the last 2 years. Then we will look at the differences between no-code and low-code tools, have a look a bit at the tooling landscape, and then maybe share a bit of our insights as end users of these platforms. Next, we will, oh, no, please. We will look at the advantages, but also the limitations that you should be aware of when looking into these tools and building with these tools. The third point of the agenda is actually the most interesting one in our perspective. We will be sharing real life cases that we implemented, whether it was internally at Project A or at our ventures. And last but not least, we'll finish with a Q&A session. We're going to try and allocate at least 10 minutes at the end. So yeah, feel free to write down or think about questions to ask us at the end. We're happy to answer these. Moving to the next slide. So we would like to quickly mention how the topic actually became a big deal in the last 2 years. So first with COVID-19, where businesses were forced to go online and offer digital solutions or services fast. Then we have a second point which accelerated the emergence of the topic of no-code and low-code, is the shortage of developers. So this was already something that existed pre-COVID, but it reached critical levels during the pandemic. Third, and our last point of this slide is the emergence of mainstream AI. I mean, I believe most of you know that, but in the realm of no-code and low-code tools, there are now most of the tools out there integrate AI within their solutions, making it even more accessible to end users and business teams. Overall, I believe like the topic was quite niche 3-4 years ago. So when I started at Smunch, it wasn't something that everyone would be actively looking into or building processes with. But now it's a whole democratization process that is happening, and it enables people like myself, so business people, to be able to bring their ideas to life without extensive coding skills. In the next slide, we would like to show you how we differentiate no-code and low-code. So there are 3 areas which we identified. First, the users, then the operational mode, and the application types. So starting with no-code, on the user end, there are no limitations because you don't necessarily need coding knowledge. It's still required, I would say, because I would say that when I am using no code, there are still some business logic that is relevant when using these tools. The operational mode, which is more the platform that you're using. In general, it would involve drag and drop features, all within the visual interface, and sometimes you will have these pre-built templates to allow you to launch your app, your processes, and so on and so forth. Moving to the application types, which is more like, okay, what is the end product? What are you actually trying to build? In the case of marketing, what we usually do with these tools is to create landing pages, automated email sequences, and automate marketing processes. So I will show you at the end how it will look like for what I built for this. But yeah, that's on the no-code side.
When it comes to low code, things can get pretty complex pretty fast, as now the expectation for the user, or at least from my experience, I would say that you would need at least a basic knowledge of APIs, HTTP requests, maybe even JavaScript seems to be the main language used in low-code tools. You might need some knowledge of relational databases and definitely be able to read technical documentation, as if you're handling APIs, you're also handling the technical documentation for those. When it comes to the tools, for most parts, you will still find the drag and drop ones, but you might also encounter in-app IDEs, and also some of them, which is rarely, they also offer deployments through GitHub. So you can write locally and deploy it through GitHub. Application types. In low code, you can also cover the no code application types, but I think the most popular one is definitely an MVP. You need to ship something very fast to a small to medium audience, and you don't have a full-fledged tech team. You don't have the resources to spend time on your idea. So if you have a great product but you don't have resources or a full-fledged tech team, the low-code tools are definitely the right tools for you. Also, systems integrations. Here, if you're dealing with tools, this is one case that I'm going to cover shortly, is when you have, for example, a CRM tool and an ERP tool that are operating in a silos. The low-code tool will help you to bridge this gap and easily streamline data between these two applications. Then you also have management apps. By management apps, I mean, for example, a back office. This is very handy for the tech team because this can be developed in faster time, and you can focus on tasks that your skills are more critical for. And another, I think that we move to the next slide, which is the tools landscape. And as you can see, there are many tools, and as we speak, probably new ones are also being developed. This is a very simplistic way to differentiate. There are many ways you can differentiate, but for us, we thought that this was the best way to differentiate with how we might use them. So if you look up and down, you see that the business user, which would be Audrey, or the developer. So if you look up, most of them would be low code. If you look down, most of them will be up, no code, down, low code. You also can look from left to right. So left to right means that the end user is an internal person. This is for workflow automations, for management apps, and then on the right side, for MVPs and any type of apps that you might need to deploy to an external audience. Audrey, would you have anything to add on this point?
Yeah, maybe to this point. So like Maria mentioned, this is a differentiation that we established together. However, you could also think about it based on, or you could do a separation based on their functionality. So there is a grouping that you could do. For example, databases. You would have tools like Airtable or rows or like the simple Google Sheets, which would act as a database for your no-code operations. Then moving on, for example, to everything that is to how to collect user information. That's going to be like every tool related to forms that you have on your website that are no-code tools. For example, well, the very basic one is going to be like a Google form, but you could also look into a bit more advanced tools such as, well, Typeform, which everyone knows, then Tally, which is also a no-code form tool. And then you would move on to everything related to the automations or more like the integration between these tools, which could be Zapier, Make, and 8. And yeah, so basically having these separated by their functionality, that's also some way to think about it in terms of the differentiation between the different tools that are out there on the market. So yeah, exactly. So then after looking at the tooling landscape, we wanted to share a bit more about our experience as the end user. So here I've mentioned that the training time for these tools, although it says no code tools, I think it's still a training which is ongoing. for myself, because I would always look for new tools and try and read the documentation, try to build around myself. But I am lacking the technical expertise. Hence why it's always good to be able to work with someone from the tech team. In this case, Maria, who's helping me a lot to be able to, look if there's any issues that I have with setting up APIs and so on and so forth. So yeah. So my training time is ongoing for these tools, but what is the advantage for myself to be able to use no code in my daily operations is that I understand what are the pain points or the challenges that I face in my marketing department. So let's say there's a process with how do we push leads from a marketing campaign from something that has been posted on LinkedIn, and how do we actually push that into our CRM system. And I know which are the requirements that need to be pushed from one system to the other, and it makes it easy for me to be able to then put that together. Obviously, it doesn't mean that I can go live with the things that I'm building. I would always need to have someone to check what I'm doing. But yeah, this is, I think, one of the biggest advantages that I see in no-code solutions. Like I said, challenge is the lack of technical knowledge. But yeah, I think this is something that can be fixed, and I don't really see it as a blocker. I just believe that at some point in future organizations, there will be some kind of either training or some documentation or some knowledge base on how to use these tools. Yeah, so that's a bit about like my perspective as a user. Then moving on to Miria, so you can share a bit of your insights here on how you use the tool.
So for my profile, as you can see, it's just one training time of 1 week. But this is just for me to get a basic understanding of a tool and to get going with the tool. As any developer would say, learning is continuous. Learning never ends. And you can also say that it's learning a new tool is quite similar to learning a new software language, because all of them might have their own quirks, might have their own advantages, might have their own similarities, but you always have that one tool that you compare all the others to, and most of the times the others fall short. And one advantage is definitely the technical knowledge, because this is our daily task, right? Like working with APIs, working with, we write the technical documentation, troubleshooting, debugging. But this can also, I guess, could also be a challenge, as you tend to be more critical of these tools and a bit more reluctant using these tools, as you can easily just write some scripts or write some code and job is done. A challenge was the limited control. The limited control, because you don't have access to the backend, to behind the scenes, you only have access to what the tool is giving you access to, which is not much, as the target user might still be a non-technical person, and they don't want to deal with security, they don't want to deal with setting up an API, writing an API, and all these other things that are very important for a developer. But this can also bring bad outcomes, as best practices are not always followed. In some cases, there are no best practices, and this can definitely bring some very bad outcomes. My story is quite short, how I started with low-code tools. One of our ventures needed to migrate data from a legacy system which had no API support, and they also didn't have a tech team, and a technical solution was definitely not right for them. So we've implemented a low-code solution that could be maintained by a semi-technical person. And they can forward. And as an important person said, no and low-code tools don't replace technical principles, it empowers them. And I can definitely agree with that. I think if a tool is selling you that you don't need developer knowledge, you really don't need any technical knowledge, it's lying to you to buy the product, and you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands than you started with. And now for us to go into actually the good, the bad, and the ugly, which are advantages and limitations of these tools, and also our experiences with these tools. So the first one is innovation. I guess nobody can say that innovation is not an advantage of these low code and no code tools. Why innovation is an advantage? Because it opens the market to new people. It opens a new skill set of people, a new uh, target of people that can bring different skill sets and their ideas. And when different skill sets work together, there's definitely innovation. The second advantage would be cost effectiveness. I think this could be debatable, as we've seen recently that companies are trying to cut down costs on cloud services, but low code and no code tools are definitely, they can be cost effective. Why? Because you can save on development time, you can save even on people, resources, and I think especially in this market, companies really need to be mindful about their costs, and low code and no code tools can definitely help with that. Audrey, what's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, so from a business perspective, let's say often what I've seen in the business before, like no code tools, is that, or with teams that don't have no code tools, is that, for example, let's say you have a marketing team that is not hitting their revenue targets, so you have to come up with a campaign, and obviously how it will look like is that you have different stakeholders involved, ranging from product managers to software developers, to be able to actually have all the assets that you need to launch your campaign. So I'm talking about like landing pages, and then how do you get your contact information from leads into your system, and so on and so forth. And this in general would be politely declined by the product manager because they don't have time and the sprint has already started. So that's something that I've been actually exposed to multiple times. And then you are basically behind your targets, and you feel a bit, well, let's say, helpless with what you're actually supposed to be doing. Now, with these no-code tools, you can ship your own landing page, create a whole registration form and a whole flow, and connect all of the systems together. And not only is it a benefit for marketing teams, it also frees up all the time for the tech team to be able to focus on things that are more important, such as actually like the core product of your company. And that's where I really see the biggest benefit. Like I said earlier, it's not about us being fully in control of these things. I think there is some type of QA that should be done. So whether you're launching some landing pages, they need to be approved by the design team, if it's like all according to the branding guidelines, and then everything related to how we're pushing data into our existing systems, that needs to be double checked with the tech team and the BI team. But I believe that it's just like, yeah, it's a good feeling to be able to, yeah, just launch and not feel that you have blockers on the way for your campaigns. So that's a bit like an overall take on why I would see like the benefits of this. So empowerment for all teams, and freeing up time where it's needed.
Collaboration. Collaboration is definitely an advantage of low code and no code. We are a testament to that. Marketing and tech, who would have thought? This brings brings people that you wouldn't think that they can collaborate, and I guess sometimes can frustrate each other. You can bring them together and they can work effectively, I would say. And yeah, enable cross-functional teams. You are also bringing non-developers to bring their ideas into what they actually need, as some of the products are not, we need their expertise, their business expertise in bringing these products to life. And low-code tools and no-code tools definitely achieve that. What is your opinion on collaboration?
I mean, yeah. Again, I think, like I mentioned before, I think it's about being able to ship products faster and just be like have a bit more of a relaxed environment when it comes to working on cross-functional projects. So yeah, I believe. Yeah, I kind of like mentioned that a bit before. I think if we like move on a bit to the other points that we've listed here. I think that we've mentioned these already, so I would suggest that we could already move on maybe to we have like obviously some numbers to back these up. Happy to share the sources here at the end of the presentation, but just because I want to be sure that we can go through our use cases, I would like to skip exactly. So maybe the limitations, if you would like to add here a couple of points, and then we can move on to our use cases. Oh, sorry.
So to also talk briefly about the bad and the ugly of no and low-code tools, vendor lock-in is definitely a problem. If you're trying to migrate to another provider, or even you might scale out of your solution, it might be difficult to do so, as most of these tools do offer the option to download your source code, but more often than not, you will have to start from scratch. Security risks. Security is definitely paramount in tech. Security is your reputation as a company. And in low-code tools, you have to rely on the tool that they are implementing the right and robust security measures. But also, when you're thinking of non-developers, you might also think of people that might not follow the best practices when it comes to security measures, and you might encounter, because of lack of knowledge, you might encounter also some unawarely introducing some security vulnerabilities.
Yeah, maybe I can share
Yeah.
on that. From my perspective and like the learnings that I had, so we're coming from a startup background where our goal was really to ship things as fast as possible and try out as many tools as possible. Security was absolutely not one of our concerns, so we were definitely doing some things that I wouldn't do now at Project A, obviously. And what is funny is to see like the difference. So from the startup world, switching then to working for a venture capital, and then now I'm being placed at a PE company. And there, I must say that going through the whole process of being sure that the tool is GDPR compliant is, let's say, a huge bottleneck when you're trying to go for speed. I've been trying to clear out or get legal clearance now for one tool. It's been 3 weeks. So obviously there is some frustration there, but I fully understand like why there is such a diligent process to understand exactly, okay, what are the limit, like what are the legal concerns around the tool. So yeah, maybe that was just like a point from my experience here in terms of the security risks.
And also scalability is a big issue, probably even one of the biggest issues when it comes to no and low code. If you have high traffic, if your product grows more unique, more complex, local tools as of now are not the solution. They don't scale too well once you pass a certain threshold. And as of today, they are still not the right solution. We also have versioning, testing, and deployment environments. This is probably more familiar maybe for developers. In local tools, you have limited support for version control, for more granular features. And why is this a problem? Is because we are working together. which it means that in low-code tools, it might be more difficult to work together at the same time in the tool as we are used to with code. As you can write your feature, you're not going to inconvenience me as I'm writing my feature, and we have processes for that. Best practices principles. I've mentioned this before. They are not strong best practices in low code or no code, at least in companies. And how this can be mitigated would be through writing documentation and documenting everything, whatever you learned about the tool, processes that you are automating. It might not seem important now, but in 6 months, if you need to debug and something breaks in your automation, you definitely thank yourself for writing documentation and also implementing best practices. Troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is specifically difficult for non-developers, as they might lack the technical knowledge to understand the error messages. And this can lead to blockers in development time. But this is also a difficult topic for developers because you are used to having access to everything. And in here, you don't. You rely, again, heavily on the tool implementing meaningful error message, as you don't have access to the behind the scenes. Would you like to share your experience with troubleshooting?
I can share it when I go through my workflow that I tried setting up earlier today for the conference. I can do a live.
Then we can already start talking about our use cases. And I can start with my use case, which, as I've mentioned earlier, was CRM and ERP integration. I will start with the agenda. So I will give you a short project background, how it all started, and also why we chose low code. Also, a very simplistic overview of how this could have been implemented in a traditional way, then how it was implemented in low code, and also an image of how it was actually implemented in the chosen tool, which was Make. So talking about the project background, the venture that I supported needed to reduce data redundancy. As we all know, data is king in today's age. Eliminate manual data sinks. The processes were entered manually by somebody. Also free up the said somebody. And the solution had to be maintained by a non-developer, as the resources in that direction were limited. So this is a very simplistic overview of how a traditional integration might look like. You might have a team of developers, a DevOps for the infrastructure, a PM, and roughly the implementation framework 3 to 6 months, but we might also be optimistic about it. The graph also shows a traditional setup. So we had HubSpot as a CRM and Oracle NetSuite, which is a pain to work with, as the ERP. And in the middle, you see the possible cloud services that you might use to deploy code, and also for databases and so on, security measures. And also the implementation logic. So this was the business logic. Once we gathered the requirements from the business, what they needed, they had data issues because we also didn't want to replicate data. And in this case, maintenance can only be done by a technical person. Everything will be written with code. So the expectations cannot be for a non-technical person to maintain this. Now, if we're going to the low code, you might say that it looks similar. The only difference now, it seems to be the setup, which you see instead of the cloud layer, you see the Make and the citizen developer on top. The team also comprises of a developer and a PM. So again, you might say that the difference is that you are reducing manpower. And the implementation framework was actually 1.5 months. We are making progress, you can say. It could have been shorter, but we've also had some challenges which took us longer. Some of these challenges were we've never used Make before, so we were going into uncharted waters with Make. So we also had a learning curve to use Make. And also NetSuite, because NetSuite uses SOAP API in 2023. And I can say that SOAP API is not fun to work with if you are a technical person. Not recommend. And here, the maintenance can be done by an advanced citizen developer with minimal technical knowledge. And I will also talk about that shortly. And now, to actually see how this workflow looks like, the Make magic, this is how it looks like. It looks daunting, and it looks like it will be a pain to troubleshoot, and it can be. Maybe you're also wondering, can this be maintained by a non-technical person? Well, the answer is yes, but they might need my help from time to time. Why they might need some help? There's also some code. I needed some code to be able to, the tools has limitations, and I've definitely encountered these limitations with this implementation. And I'll also talk briefly about the limitations that I've encountered. Data mapping. We had two existing systems, the ERP and the CRM were already existing. And obviously the data structures were completely different. We had to implement some data mapping to be able, and also data cleaning, to be able to streamline data. We also had a timeout issue, which was quite interesting to solve. We had to be creative with this issue. We had too many iterations. And how we implemented this, how we solved this, was with a caching system. You might think caching system in low code, that doesn't make any sense. We had to be creative with that. We've used a very rudimentary database and also some code to query. So first, we saved these entries, and the next time the iteration was happening, it would enter this caching system that would query if the entry existed. And if it existed, it also checked if it had changed, if the fields have changed, and would only process this if the fields have changed. Error handling. That was surprising that it wasn't too much of a pain to handle. It could be either handled in-app or with sending an email system. And security, we've made full use of Make's access control and team features, which you can define user roles and also teams. So a user will only have access to what they need to access and nothing up over that. And the lack of feature-based development and testing was the hardest, because the integration that you see there could not be developed by feature. It had to be developed in one go and also be tested in one go. You cannot test parts of it. I mean, you can replicate parts of it, test them, and then put them together, but there is no way to do that as you would do it as a developer. Also, to shortly talk about the impact, we've saved a full-time employee. The implementation time halved, and we also had a return on investment of 150% after 1 year. And I hand over to Audrey for her more fun.
So thanks for going through your use case that you implemented at a venture. I remember trying to just go in the scenario and sneak in and trying to see how it was set up. And yes, I could absolutely not take care of that automation. So yeah. Maybe because we have only, I believe, 5 minutes left, I would just like to know who in the audience is marketing, is from a marketing background, or is it only techies? And then I would go basically very, very fast through my my automation just to show a bit, yeah, marketing people, no, maybe a bit more business background, just okay. Okay, okay, good. Right. Okay, so then maybe I will quickly show you what I've put together actually this morning. So one question that came to my mind, or one bottleneck that I saw with business teams this year, with the economical situation and marketing teams having to downsize, but still meet their targets, I thought, okay, one bottleneck is content production, and how can we actually make sure that we're still appearing on our social channels to be able, to be found by potential customers. So what I did here is think, okay, what is the case at Project A? I knew that we had a couple of videos on YouTube that were done by our brand and comms team earlier this year. So what I did is, you can see starting at the top there, the automation would look for all the files that have video and audio. It will then download the file and then run through AI basically to create a transcription. That transcription is then stored into Google Drive and then used for different content assets, starting off with creating a rough blog article, so that can be then posted on your website or on WordPress, and then create a summary and then social media captions. If you would elaborate this a bit more, you could then fully create some ads and whatever needed to run your paid social campaigns. And then at the end, you can see the small Slack logo to basically inform your team that all the creative assets have been done, uploaded in the folder, but that still needs to be reviewed before posting anything online. So this is roughly what I did this morning. If I can quickly show you how it looks like in the drive, basically, or maybe let's cut it, because maybe we want to have some questions. Yeah. Okay. If anyone is interested in this kind of automation, you can just reach out to me. Right. So yeah, I think for now we will cut the presentation to this, and then answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass around the microphone for your questions.
Hi. Thanks for the presentation. So we are building the next cool no-code, low-code platform. So what would be the one feature you would like to see which you didn't found in the existing solutions which you tried? Your wish feature.
So it would depend. So what is exactly the no-code platform doing? Is it more like an integrator, like an automation tool, or is it? If
So
you could maybe.
it's doing both. It's building the beautiful front ends and also automating, moving the complexity for citizen development.
I think for me, what is the most important part is the whole. What is often missing is the whole documentation part and the whole tutorial part. I think really having an extensive library there of knowledge made available to the end user, specifically from a business perspective, and without the technical knowledge, that's what I'm lacking in most no-code platforms or low-code platforms. Education, as much as possible, because that's the first thing that I would do if I go and look up for a tool. I will go on YouTube. I will check all the tutorials, as much use cases as you can put. That would be for me the biggest advantage.
Got it. Audrey, how about you?
Where should I start? Well, I think should I speak as a developer or as somebody to think of the businesses? Because for the businesses, it's definitely scalability. Like these tools cannot handle scalability after a certain point. So that's from a business perspective, I would say that. And as a developer, as I said, deployments to, and also testing, because this is one point that I didn't talk about, was actually testing costs money in low code. You're burning money because you have to test everything in the app, and whatever you're testing, you're burning money. So I think maybe this, also this, as a developer, you can test these things locally. I mean, okay, you're still paying for broadband and electricity, but I think it's still cheaper than the operations that these low-code tools. But I guess it's also the business model. So I don't know if that's also possible.
All right, we would have time for one last question. Who wants to go? Okay, then I'm going to ask a question. How do you see the future of low-code tools at Project A? Like, do you have any perspective on this?
Yeah, so maybe already on how it evolved, let's say in the last 2 years where I've joined. I hope that it will go faster in terms of like getting them getting these tools approved. But how I see it is that you will have probably in each department, so in each business teams, right? So ranging from like product, marketing, sales, customer success, that you would have one no-code builder or automation specialist or citizen developer, however you want to call it, that will be enabling the team from within, because they understand, okay, what are the pain points and what we can actually automate. So ideally, that's what we would have, hoping that will be implemented, yeah, in the future. So that would be my wish.
Great,
Yeah.
cool. So thanks a lot for your time and for the great talk. Yeah, looking forward to working with you soon.